Right. Hello, people, YouTube land. Those that are part of the Cringe Crew Gaming Community Discord, those that follow Ted and I on Twitch, and those that are listening to this on Spotify or wherever we decide to put this on. I am Traductus.
And I'm Ted.
And this is the Cringe Crew Gaming Movie Review Podcast, where we take a director's filmography. We go through the backstory. Ted goes over the plot. We go likes and dislikes, and then we rank these movies. And we are doing Tarantino. And this week we are doing the Hateful Eight. And if you saw the last episode, we unfortunately led on that we were recording these two episodes back to back, but I don't care. I am committing to the bit, hence why I changed the shirt. Now that that's out of the way, as you can see, I'm quite annoyed with this movie. So we're gonna go into background, which I will say that oh crap, I didn't fucking put that up. Hold on, Hateful Eight. Okay,
He's so fucking angry he can't do his job. God damn it.
Yeah, spoiler alert, more when I think about this movie, the more pissed off I get about it. Now, that does not mean that I dislike the movie. There's just a few gripes that I have. Okay, so the Hateful Eight, 2005. Okay, this is the last one that is produced and distributed by the Weinstein Company due to, Harvey Weinstein being a shitty human being. Tarantino decided not to do any more movies with him. Took him long enough, but hey, I mean, if it were me, I'd stop at, Kill Bill with, Uma Thurman, going up to him. It's like, hey, the dude's sexually harassing me. And then you're basically telling Harvey Weinstein, don't come on my goddamn set. That would have ended it for me, but
we don't need a dissertation on Weinstein. Back to the plot here, Stallman.
Yeah. So this had a budget of $44 to $62 million and a box office return of $156.5 million. That being said, I actually do think that
as you can see, we haven't learned to read.
That is correct. This was originally supposed to be a sequel to Django Unchained. Then, while making this, Tarantino realized that the Django character did not fit the story. So, therefore, he decided to redo the plot. That being said, the script ended up getting leaked, and Tarantino decided to make this into a novel, which he ended up doing, and then later on made the movie. Now, for the score, he actually brought on Ennio Morricone, who is the guy that did the soundtrack for The Thing, Mission Impossible, and and every single Sergio Leone movie since A Fistful of Dollars. Which, why did they fucking wait? Hold on. Why the hell did they put that on fucking for the Wikipedia thing? Like, he did all of them for fucking
back to the plot, Stallman.
His movies, yeah. Thank you. That being said, there are different cuts of this movie. Each of them being longer than the other. With the running time for like the roadshow version being 187 minutes, the general audience one being 168 minutes, which is the one that we watched, and then there's the extended version, which is a 4-part miniseries that runs at 210 minutes. Jesus. Now, also, Tarantino included a couple homages between like different directors that he admired, including gay porn director Joe Gage, who was also directed a few like B movies under his actual real name, Tim Kincaid, most notoriously being Robot Holocaust. You'll probably remember that if you're a Mystery Science Theater 3000 fan. And might as well go into casting. Joe Gage, played by Michael Madsen, one of the Hateful Eight. Tim Roth is back as Oswald Mowbray. We got Demian Bichir as Senor Bob. Walton Goggins as Chris Maddox. Jennifer Jason Leigh as Crazy Daisy Domergue. Kurt Russell as John the Hangman Ruth. Samuel L. Jackson as Major Marquis Warren. Bruce Dern as General Sanford Smithers. James Parks as Obie Jackson. And we have Channing Tatum as Jody Domergue, and there's a couple other people that have like bit parts, such as Zoe Bell as Six Horse Judy. You'd probably recognize Zoe as a fictional character of herself in the movie Death Proof. Now, Tarantino said that he kind of had the idea of this movie was like just get every bad guy from various westerns and just put them in a room and see what happens. And on top of that, other things that happened during filming. There's a scene where Kurt Russell destroys a guitar. Now, they ended up getting the guitar lent to them by the Martin Guitar Museum. It is legitimately an 1870s Martin guitar. Now, that was supposed to be switched out with a prop. However, no one told Kurt Russell this, so he just smashes this priceless guitar, causing the entire cast to kind of like freak out. And that's actually caught on film, especially with Jennifer Jason Leigh. And I actually noticed that she actually breaks character with that reaction. So that was an actual reaction. And what was funny was what's showed on there was Jennifer Jason Leigh's reaction was genuine, though Tarantino was in a corner of a room with a funny curl on his lips because he got something out of it with the performance. That being said, ever since then, the museum no longer lends props to film productions. So thank you, Tarantino, for ruining that for everybody.
Kurt Russell more than Tarantino, but sure.
They could have told him.
Well, sure, but he could also just elect to not smash a guitar.
Right. Now, there were a couple different people that were considered being cast, including Viggo Mortensen. Doesn't really say what casting that he was going to be in that. Jennifer Lawrence was going to be Daisy Domergue, but she declined due to her commitments with the movie Joy and also the Hunger Games films. That and also Channing Tatum's casting in this movie came to the part where he really, really wanted to actually have like a major role in a movie, and this was kind of like one of his first major roles in a movie, even though it is kind of like a small part, but is an integral part. And with that all being said, I guess take it away.
Sure. So the plot that, in order that it happens, the bounty hunter Kurt Russell picks up several hitchhikers, I guess, for lack of a better word, people who are stranded as the blizzard is coming. They decided to stop on a halfway point to their destination, which is an inn, I guess, kind of. It's like a general store more than an inn, but there's bed. The building is purposeless. There is a group of people already there avoiding the blizzard. There's some power struggles and conflicts as the characters get to know each other, and then it becomes revealed later on that the party who was already there was laying a trap for the party coming in, so that they could kill Kurt Russell, because the person that Kurt Russell had captured alive as his bounty, being a bounty hunter, was Channing Tatum's sister. So the goal was to get her freed by murdering everyone. Easy enough.
Yeah, which gets into likes and dislikes on this.
I'm just going to let you take the floor with dislikes because I'm ready to get your rant over with.
Fuck. What the fuck? Really? I let you build up to your fucking crescendo.
Then you tell me how you want to do it, Stalvin.
Oh no, I'm doing it now. All right, we're going with dislikes. All right.
Then don't bitch at me. Spit it out.
All right. This movie's fucking long. Longer than it needed to be.
Yeah.
We've complained about that with a lot of things with Tarantino. And there's a lot of things that could definitely be cut out. Now, all right, so part of it is that is a little of a gripe is the title, but like the title's neither here or there. I understand that you want to have misdirection that with that Channing Tatum's character is in the basement pointing a gun up and, is hidden throughout the entire thing. So obviously if you just had 7 characters in there, everybody would just be like, well, where's the 8th guy? Obviously, if you want to have that shock, you want to more or less, have at least 8 people in there, which they would have had. However, it ends up being 10 people around there. Now, I get that, the character of OB is not really a hateful person, even though he curses Kurt Russell out, rightfully so. But Bruce Dern's character, isn't really necessary. He continues the plot on very well. They do kind of sort of justify him being there, but that character could be cut out with different, that put on different things. He didn't really have to be there. You could have had Samuel Jackson arguing with, I guess Chris Maddox. I can't remember. Walton Goggins' character. You could have had them arguing while Michael Madsen's poisoning the coffee. There's just certain things like that, and the whole rant and shit. There's several rants that happen in this that could just be cut, just to make this shorter. And on top of that, this is the biggest thing that kind of gets me my blood boiling, because I see different movies thrown in here that if they would have just focused on shall we say the mystery aspect of who killed Kurt Russell and OB, and then maybe had the chess match thing where they're trying to wheel and deal near the end, but we get a lot of exposition that we don't need. That could literally be done in 2 seconds. And what's funny is that at first it starts out, it's okay, that's enough exposition. But then they start making the expositions longer and longer and longer. It's we already got the point. You don't need to drill it in our damn head 5 times in a goddamn row,
I hear you. Gonna disagree, but I'll get to that later.
And also, with the soundtrack being really good in the last one, the fact that they actually got and this is the first time that, and I think this is the only Tarantino film so far, because I know that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood doesn't have a complete original score. They have a completely original score from the guy from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. All right, the guy that does the Sergio Leone tracks. There's nothing noteworthy about the soundtrack at all. It's a waste. It's a waste. It's a fucking waste of a person's talent to have who's used to making these awesome soundtracks that don't that aren't distracting, but they go with the movie. Well, with this, the soundtrack's just completely ignorable. Completely ignorable.
That one's fair. I'll give you that one.
That being said, that's really what I got. There's a lot of shit that could just be easily cut out, and this movie didn't have to be that fucking long.
I find it hard based on the plot that we were given to agree with you, but I do hear you that it does feel like a long movie. You feel like
it also doesn't help there isn't much of a point.
I'm going to come back to that one. So, for my dislikes, this is the shittiest storytelling of an Agatha Christie novel.
Right?
Like, it's... The reason I disagree with you in terms of that there's no point is that it just kind of takes that and then there were none storyline, and instead of making it a mystery like a whodunit, right, there's also power dynamics and power struggles and race conflicts that come along with it. But I'm going to come back to that for likes because I'm not trying to tip my hand now. My big thing here is that there's a lot of like lazy storytelling again. The opening couple of chapters. First off, fuck you, Tarantino, for adding titles in everywhere. Go fuck yourself, you pompous ass.
Reminded me on something, which I will get after you're done with your spiel.
Sure, yes.
I do have one more fucking gripe, which is the biggest gripe I have of this movie.
The idea, right, that like, well, this cart comes across a wayward traveler who's out of his luck and needs help. How do we get the next guy on the cart? Well, fucking do the same thing. Another wayward traveler who had an issue with his horse and needs a ride in the blizzard. Like, then there's the driving force that like binds all of the characters. There's the like mindless fucking repetition. Like, there's just some goofy like laziness to his storytelling. Not a huge gripe, I guess, but I'm with you. My biggest negative is honestly the fact that this is like a bottleneck episode of your favorite sitcom where it's just like, hey, we don't have the budget to do another full set, so we just locked everybody in our room. And
see, that part I actually don't mind because I like how claustrophobic this movie is. Although the claustrophobia and everything, it kind of reminds me of like a shitty version of The Thing.
The reason it's reason it's an issue is like the claustrophobia is fine, right? Like the conflict and the struggle, the power struggles, right, only happen because it's a one room movie, right? Don't get me wrong. Like it there's certainly a purpose for it, right? I hate the idea that sometimes this one room feels too small for everyone and there's a problem. And then other times this room is so big that in one room, somebody can poison coffee and then there can be 8 different side conversations and nobody can hear what's happening on the other side of the room until it's convenient to hear what's on the other side of the room, right? Like, at least in the movie rendition of Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, like at least there were different rooms in this mansion for the murder mystery, right?
Or like with The Thing, like they're on like a base and the base is like filled with small rooms, but like there's a whole base.
Right.
And also like the whole Antarctica continent outside.
If you're going to bottleneck, make your bottleneck consistent. That's my issue, right? Like, if this was an inn with multiple rooms or whatever, and still a small confined space that they couldn't get away from each other, fine, the plot moves on, right? The issue is that, like, well, sometimes everybody sees everything, and sometimes you can poison the coffee in front of other people and nobody's gonna know, and it's gonna be fine and dandy because this room is so fucking big. It's a lazy bottleneck. But I digress. To get into likes, I do want to start with your points about that it all seems pointless. Oh, you had one more dislike. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right. This is kind of a less good version of Reservoir Dogs.
Real.
Especially since that we even get like a shitty version of the Like a Virgin story, where Tarantino has to make himself look smart. And it's so goddamn smug. It's like, well, you know, because Tarantino's just narrating over like this one part and he's just going, well, since everybody was looking at Samuel Jackson, you know, antagonizing Bruce Dern to try to shoot at him so Samuel Jackson could shoot Bruce Dern and kill him. Somebody poisoned the coffee and the only person that saw it was Jennifer Jason Leigh. Hence the title chapter, Dormeroux's got a secret.
It's
just like, did we really need that? Like, come on. Like, I think just seeing them like throw up and stuff, and then them kind of mention the coffee while that scene is happening, kind of makes you think, okay, someone poisoned the coffee during there. And even Samuel L. Jackson comes to the conclusion that that's when the coffee was poisoned. You did not need that stupid goddamn.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to legs. And I'm going to talk on some of your negatives there as far as the pointlessness. I want to first start with the general character, right? So,
and I'm not saying the character's bad. I just don't think he's necessary.
The right into the general is lazy. Hey, we kept you alive, so it's more believable that we're here, right? But the general's purpose is actually very strong because, again, this isn't a fucking murder mystery film, right? This is a power struggle film.
I think
you establish some of those power struggles, right? Because there is a Confederate soldier with Confederate ties and inherent racism, right? Outward racism more so than inherent racism. And then there's also another, like, Samuel L. Jackson's character fought in the same battle and wanted to one-up this guy by saying, hey, your son died sucking my cock. Right? Like, just to really rub it in, right? He contributes to several of the power struggles that, like, the way that the movie breaks down. You already have that
power struggle with Chris Maddox, though. Even though they eventually, come together at the end because they're the only two that can trust each other.
I don't know that that's true, though, right? Because I think it only builds to that further point, right? Yes, there's conflict because they rile each other up so that there's a healthy amount of distance, but not necessarily distrust because of that third-party character, right? If not for the general existing, right, Chris Maddox would have the dominant parts of the power struggle because he devalued the Lincoln letter, right? He's important to the power struggle aspect of things. Again, his write-in is lazy. The reason that he's there is another lazy write-in. But him being there does genuinely provide value to the plot, which is power struggle, right? In the same context, right, the whole Domague's got a secret, right? Like, the way that they did it was stupid and shitty, but it's again important to recognize that she has the upper hand by having more knowledge than other people in the room, right? Every person that dies in this movie is because somebody has the slightest upper hand, and they do a very good job at demonstrating how each person gets that upper hand. And I think this plot culminates really well in the fact that everybody fucking dies and nobody fucking wins. Partially because it doesn't matter who is socially on top of who in that room or anybody's purpose or whatever. I think the power equates to you're all dead fucking morons because everybody was so worried about one-upping everybody else. And I genuinely, like, I think that's a really strong way to end something where your main conflict is not necessarily a character or a force or an entity of any kind. It's the people in the room all against each other. There's no protagonist, there's no antagonist, it's everybody against each other, and they all fucking die anyway. And I truly think it's a difficult plot to write, although he did many things lazy and stupid. I think it's a difficult plot to write, and I think for it being a difficult concept, I think it was done really well. I'm willing to hear your disagreements, but the longer I think about it, the more it all makes sense.
This isn't disagreements. You fucking spectered me against what you did. And that's why I'm mad.
I will agree that a lot of this is hard to chunk through, right? And that there's a lot of this that is not, like, super appetizing. It's super slow, and like, you really have to think about it to find the enjoyment out of the way that it was written. But I do think that, in all relativity, again, this is just fucking Reservoir Dogs a second time, but with more shooting people in the testicles. I don't know if you caught that last time that he remade one of his own movie with shooting somebody in the cock, but he did it again. He made a second movie where it's the first movie, but he shot somebody in the cock. All right. Anyway, I think that, like, even though it's a very similar plot and a very similar bottleneck, right? And there's so many lazy elements that go into it, I think that this plot was so much more complex than Reservoir Dogs, and I think that it, like, the execution of it was nailed well, if not for Tarantino being a lazy moron. Like, this was difficult, and it got done overall pretty well.
Yeah, and honestly, the characters in this are really good. Like, it's well cast. And you also are kind of kept guessing, like, you know, what's everybody's motivations, who's on whose side. It's not until, like, you know, the coffee scene where, you know, Samuel Jackson kind of takes charge, where, you know, it starts narrowing it down, okay, who's on whose particular side, and then the whole entire, you know, gun shoot-off happens.
Well, and even
then that's when you finally know.
Even then, I don't think that, like, it's necessarily, like, defined by sides, right? I think in the moment where Samuel L. Jackson's gun clicks, because we're at 2 movies in a row now, where fucking the director can count to 6. I'm so excited. Chris Maddox, right, like, genuinely listens out the idea, and he kind of surprises you by saying, no deal, and shoots him anyway, right? Like,
right.
There's not really a determination of sides, because you can still see in Samuel L. Jackson's character that he's afraid. He knows it's a good deal. Like, a rational person would take that, right? There's no reason for Maddox, a Confederate soldier, who's
also kind of stupid and believes everything that he hears for the most part.
Right. Other than the Lincoln letter and that offer, right? Like,
yeah.
The idea that he would go, nah, fuck you. I'm on the black guy's side when I fought a war that black people should be property, right? Like, it's just like there's even when there are sides, it's still the power struggle of, I know I'm better with Samuel L. Jackson than with these fucks. And it's all, how can I get one up on everybody else in the room? It's brilliantly done. Yeah.
I really do like, you know, the struggles that are happening with each other and stuff. Again, there's like a lot of laziness that makes you kind of question a lot of choices, you know, and really questions if it's actually, like, you know, everything, if the plot elements are well done with, like, certain laziness that's done. Although there's certain details in this movie that are very well done, especially like how Samuel Jackson's able to, he is automatically suspicious of Bob because, you know, he knows Minnie and he knows how Minnie is. And it's just like, because, you know, a spoiler, Minnie hates Mexicans. And so obviously, you know, she wouldn't let a Mexican run her freaking bar. So he already automatically knows that Bob's up to something, but he doesn't know if anybody else there is. So therefore he's trying to kind of like deduce, like, see what the hell is going on.
Even then, though, that's still cool, because when he's like, all right, I know it was one of you 3 who poisoned people. I don't know if you did it, but I don't trust you anyway. And I know I've got the one up, so you're dead. And then I'll figure out the rest of the problem. Right. Like, it's the same. I know I have a one up on you, so I'm taking my one up on you. And that, like, that's the way this whole thing goes.
Which is what happens with Channing Tatum. Like, he gives himself up. And Samuel Jackson shoots him anyway.
Well, and same too when like, so when the shootout, or as close to a shootout as it gets, starts, right? Chris Maddox is pointed at at Madsen, right? And then Madsen go, like, in slow motion. First up, why the fuck are we using slow motion? The dumbest points in times. Go fuck yourself, Tarantino. But he points at Madsen, and Madsen in slow motion's like, I don't have a gun. And he's like, all right, well, I got the one up on you, so you don't need to die yet. That guy. And shoots Oswaldo, right? And, like, every little tiny detail that
and when
Tarantino
Madsen knows that they don't know the gun's underneath the table, so he's like, can I at least sit down?
Right. And, like, because that was his way to get a one up on one other character, right? It's brilliant. There's laziness, there's stupidity, there's oversights. I'm not saying that this is flawless in its execution, but it's difficult to pull off, and everything remains consistent to that power struggle.
I agree with that. I honestly agree with that. I also like I also like the ending, not just because, like, everybody dies, because, like, you know, with the ending of the power struggle, like, you know, it really doesn't matter. But I don't know. There's just something satisfying just seeing, like, Maddox and Samuel L. Jackson just kind of, like, having a heart-to-heart at the end because they know that they're going to die anyway. But, like, you know, Maddox is just like, you know what? Why don't you have me just read that letter? And then he's like reading the letter comments and goes, "Wow, that was actually really well done." Like they kind of like earned each other's respect. And to me, that I don't know. It just made me feel a little bit good inside that these two characters that obviously hate each other at the end are just like, you know what, you're not bad.
It's slightly dissatisfying just because you kind of want somebody to make it out of there. But I'm with you. It is a pretty good ending.
At the same time, like, even though it's very implied that Maddox is mortally wounded, but you don't really see him necessarily die. You know Samuel Jackson's definitely gonna die. Like,
yeah, no, Chris he loses consciousness because he stood up for too long. Like you get the impression he's fucking dead.
Yeah.
And I just like I said, it fits the theme of the movie, right? And so I'm not complaining about it. I do think I'm with you. I think it's a good ending. It comes across your first watch as a little bit dissatisfying and underwhelming, but it is a really good ending.
Oddly enough, it reminds me of The Thing's ending, because like you have like Kurt Russell's character and then Keith David's character at the end. Like it's like, you know, Kurt Russell kills the alien at the end, but like he doesn't know if like Keith David's an alien because like he was like missing for a while, and then but they're both too tired to really kind of like do anything, and they're gonna freeze to death anyway, so they just kind of just sit and just like look at the fire that's burning, and that's how that ends. So it's like, again, kind of like a dismal ending at the thing of like two characters that just make do with the situation that they're in.
Yeah, certainly fair. Certainly fair.
I really got nothing else to put in this.
I know I kind of hijacked the likes and, you know, spectered you again, but
that's fine. That's fine. It still doesn't change my ranking.
Fair. Well, do you want to rank it first then?
Yeah. If I remember correctly, I have my ranking so far at the bottom, Death Proof. Then it goes Reservoir Dogs. This movie's worse than Reservoir Dogs, and it's definitely better than Death Proof by a long shot. This movie is definitely very entertaining, but it's definitely dense, if that makes sense. And I think the denseness of it, and also combination with some of the lazy writing that's in it, shoots the movie in the foot.
That's fair. I
like, it could be a hell of a lot better movie than, I mean, like, it could have been a lot worse movie than like, you know, I mean, it could have been worse, could have been better, but like, it's okay.
My thing is that, like, so if we go back to Christopher Nolan for a second, right, and we look at things like Memento that were really early on in his career, right? Super fucking complex plot, really difficult to write a movie in that fashion, right? And I think to take a complex plot, like, it can be done so much more successfully. Like you said, there are bits that are lazy. There are a lot of oversights, right? Like, there's just things that are difficult. And I also don't think that this movie is super approachable, partially because it's damn near 3 hours, partially because that the purpose that you're supposed to catch is complex, right? It's not a whodunit. It's a power struggle, right? Like, it's not something that like is inherently obvious to you up at the front. And I think just kind of like, we took a complex plot, but we weren't ready to make a complex plot, I think really detracts from this. I don't think it's bad, and I would certainly watch it again. But I think that this one is actually going to go right in the middle for me at fifth, right behind Django. I still think that it is, like, the things that it does well are still put it for me above Pulp Fiction. But I don't think it's as good or nearly as enjoyable a watch as Django Unchained. So I'm going to stick it right in the middle and put it fifth.
All right. That being said, next film is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Am I correct?
I believe so, and I'm also fairly sure that's the last one for Tarantino before we get into our next director. So,
yep.
As always, you can come and watch movies with us in the Discord. We watch typically on Monday evenings, but if you hop in the Discord, you'll be able to see if that ever changes, because Stallman runs late a lot.
Especially during this time.
Yeah. If you're interested in more of our content, you can go back into the YouTube and check out previous episodes, as well as a whole bunch of other content that we keep here on the YouTube. If you're interested in our content specifically, you can check us both out on Twitch, Stallman at Traductus, myself at Ted Green Eagles. As always, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.